Hi, Lael Couper Jepson here. So my mom's birthday was yesterday. She turned 77 years old, and Mother's Day is coming up on this Sunday. And I thought I want to relay a story to you about my mom that really resonated deeply with me the other day. Um, um, I am who I am because of my mom, and the same is true of so many of us. The ties, the bonds between a mother and a daughter, I will only ever know as a daughter. I have two sons, but I've heard and I know as a daughter, it's just a primal bond. And so naturally, when I was writing my book, a lot of the stories that came out had my mom in them, and it was a process of falling in love with my mom all over again and seeing how strong and resilient and courageous and transformative she was, like a phoenix from the flames. And so when my book came out, Unscripted, she was really excited to read it and hadn't read it, and so but she has trouble with her eyes. She can't see out of one eye, and her vision is compromised in her other eye. So she has a really hard time reading the text from the book. So I've taken to reading to her, and I love storytelling and I love reading aloud. I've learned, and so we were in the kitchen the other night, and I was reading this excerpt from the book. I just opened it up and I started reading, and so I want to read you that quick excerpt. Things started to shift for me, whether I wanted it to or not, when I revealed myself as a woman working in a man's world by getting pregnant. One of my last days in the office before my maternity leave, I walked into a meeting of a project I'd been working on for nearly a year as a consultant. The director, my client, looked at my belly, not me, mind you, but the child inside me, and said to the other colleagues, all men, "She's going to be done soon, so we need to get someone else working with us." I'm not going to be done. I'm just going to be out on maternity leave. You made it seem like I'm going to be a dead or a cow being put out to pasture. And I laughed. And there it was again, that another instance of turning my back on being a woman by trying to disassociate and remind them I was just one of the guys. I'd acted as if I didn't care or that didn't hurt, that I was being summarily and publicly dismissed because I was a woman who had the audacity to have a child. I laughed for being an inconvenience, a wrinkle in a plan, an extenuating circumstance to be dealt with. My laughter was a silent agreement, a secret shame. It wasn't funny, even at the time. It was awkward and horrible and sexist. There was a part of me that wanted to conjure up the image of his own mother to make my point, how she had been done when she brought him into the world. But something in me was done and dying, never to be the same. The part of me that could no longer deny I was a woman, insisting I was just one of the guys. She was done. My edges had rounded as a result of this pregnancy, literally and figuratively, and I found myself opening to much more than just this being growing inside me. So that was the story of my first pregnancy, and I was reading that to my mom the other night, and she said, isn't that interesting? Because it parallels her own story with being pregnant with my sister, who's 3 years older than I am. And she said that when she was pregnant, she was working for Hoffman LaRoche down in New Jersey at the time as a medical writer. And she announced that she was pregnant in her first trimester, and she was sent home from work sick that day. Again, an extenuating circumstance, a wrinkle in a plan, and shamed and laughing at the inconvenience that she was creating. And that was 1965. And when I was pregnant, it was 2002. And so that's a big difference. My mom and I are 30 years apart. And the reason I highlighted that story and that my mom and I were marveling as you juxtapose that with this permeating mist that fills our airwaves sometimes, if we have come so far as women. And that's the story I go back to. I'm like, yeah, I was allowed to stay for my whole pregnancy, but I was doing this. I was stepping out for having a child. So our relationship to pregnancy and the workplace, it hasn't come that far. And I am getting nervous saying this because it's kind of not said that much. I heard a report on NPR the other day that talked about one of the issues in this election of paid FMLA leave time for women and for men, for parents, isn't being discussed to the degree that it is relevant to people that are out there. People are losing their jobs and not being able to pay their rents because they can't afford to stay home with a child who needs them. And then there's all the postpartum stuff that goes on with that. So I just offer that story because what I'm appreciating most about writing this book is how it's reaching a generation of women that I didn't anticipate reaching. It's revealing things to my own mom, who lived my story with me, that are new to her, and that is such a gift. And I'm hearing that echoed time and time again by women in their 60s and 70s who are reading this and seeing themselves in a different light as a result. So thanks. I just wanted to float that out there.